Hello and welcome to the Science Overview at MPCAT. My name is Mr Webster and I'm the Trust Director of Science. The aim of tonight's session is to make sure students are fully prepared for their first set of Year 11 assessments. The exam board that all of our MPCAT schools use is AQA, and students will either be following the GCSE Combined Science Trilogy course or 3 separate courses in Biology, Chemistry and Physics. We're going to start by looking at some of the exam subject content required. All students will sit a paper 1 in biology, chemistry and physics. For biology, that subject content required includes cells and transport, infectious disease, organisation and bioenergetics. All this information can be found in the Year 11 Science Assessment Point 1 Pupil Information Booklet. For chemistry paper 1, the subject knowledge required is atomic structure in the periodic table, quantitative chemistry, bonding, chemical changes and energy changes. For physics, paper 1 content includes energy, electricity, atomic structure and particle model. The next few slides look at the actual structure of the exam. The GCSE Combined Science is 1 hour and 15 minutes, whereas the GCSE Triple Science papers are all 1 hour and 45 minutes. Students will either sit the higher tier paper or the foundation tier paper. For the higher tier paper, 40% of marks cover grades 4 to 5, and 60% of the marks cover grades 6 to 9. For the foundation paper, 40% of the marks cover grades 4 to 5, and 60% of the marks cover grades 1 to 3. It's important students recognise that the papers do not get progressively harder. And if they get stuck on a certain question, then they should move on to the next question and not give up. The paper starts with a confidence building section. And for the higher tier paper, that will mean questions around the 4 and 5 grade mark. For the foundation tier, that will be questions around the 1 to 3 grade mark. The consolidating section in the middle will vary, and this paper will finish with the more challenging questions. The exam paper is split between 3 separate assessment objectives. Assessment Objective 1 requires students to demonstrate their understanding, and this covers 40% of the exam paper. Command words for Assessment Objective 1 include examples such as describe, identify, write, give and name. Basically, students have to recall knowledge. Assessment Objective 2 requires students to apply that knowledge, and this covers 40% of the exam paper. Command words for Assessment Objective 2 include suggest, explain and plan. Students may come across unfamiliar questions, and at this point students need to think about the content they have learned and how they can apply it to this unfamiliar question. For 20% of the exam, students are required to analyse information or data. And command words associated with Assessment Objective 3 include justify and evaluate. All GCSE papers require an element of math skills. For biology, it's 10%, chemistry 20% and physics 30%. It is therefore important that students bring a calculator that they are familiar with using. For the foundation tier science paper, the maths questions will be at least to a Key Stage 3 standard. For the higher science paper, the maths questions will be at least to the standard of a GCSE foundation maths paper. Each paper requires 15% of the marks to be based on the required practicals. For biology, these required practicals include microscopy, osmosis, enzymes, food tests and photosynthesis. For triple students, that will include culturing microorganisms. For chemistry, the required practicals involve making salts, electrolysis and temperature change. For triple students, neutralization is also included. For physics, it's specific heat capacity, resistance and length of wire, IV characteristics, density of materials, and for triple students, insulation. Students will be given a knowledge organiser for each of these required practicals. Good exam technique is crucial and will avoid students dropping any unnecessary marks. It's really important that students read the information in the question carefully. It's tempting to go straight to the question, but that will put students at a significant disadvantage. Then read the question carefully, identifying any command words. It's sometimes useful to underline these command words. Look at the number of marks available. Reread the question. Identify the command word again, and that will give you a clue into how to answer the question. Give as short an answer as possible, as concise as possible, and make sure it's based on the number of marks available. Then check your answer. If it's a maths-based question, make sure all the working out is shown, as even if the final answer is wrong, you may still pick up a few marks. And most importantly, always attempt every question. Do not leave anything blank on an exam paper. There are a whole range of revision materials available to help students prepare for these assessments. Within the Year 11 Science Assessment Point 1 Pupil Information Booklet, all page numbers are referenced from the CGP GCSE revision guides for science. Students will also be given core knowledge sheets for each of the topics, including the required practicals, and all students have access to online platforms such as GCSE Bitesize, TASSOMAI and GCSEPOD. All students have access to GCSEPOD. GCSEPOD has hundreds of different pods available for all topics studied in science. Each pod varies from 2.5 to 6 minutes in length. Students can make playlists and plan out the pods they need to watch for the following week. There is also the opportunity for students to check their understanding of topics, and Check and Challenge is a great resource for this. Students can work through a set of multiple choice questions and get given feedback whether they get the answer right or wrong. Staff will set assignments on GCSEPOD for students who need to complete them at home. This will involve watching a pod and answering some questions based on that topic. TASSOMAI is another fantastic resource the school has available. Each student must complete 4 daily goals for each subject. These are the homework requirements at St. Patrick's, and each subject teacher will be checking weekly. Homework in science is primarily set through TASSOMAI. All pupils are expected to complete 4 daily goals per week as a minimum. Parents can sign up to a weekly email report from TASSOMAI. This reports the pupils' progress on TASSOMAI for that week so that parents can monitor their child's progress and work with the school to ensure progress is complete. TASSOMAI incorporates the top methods as shown by research to improve long-term memory, such as self-testing, distributed practice, and interleaving. Actively engaging students in self-testing helps them understand where the gaps in their knowledge are and enables them to witness where they are improving and building confidence. For the chemistry papers, students will always be given a periodic table, and it's really important that students use this throughout the exam. If students forget what the periodic table represents, there's a key available. Students need to remember a whole range of equations, mainly in physics but also in chemistry and biology. Students will be given flashcards and need to go away and learn these equations. Some equations are given in the physics exam on the physics equation sheet. St. Patrick's holds its intervention every Monday night between 2:35 and 3:35. Students will alternate between biology, chemistry and physics and are currently looking at the required practicals for each of those subjects. There's a huge amount of content for science, so one tip would be to use a revision timetable. Look at the content required and spread it out over the next few weeks, making sure you interleave and go backwards and forwards to topics. Following on from the exam, students will be given a detailed QLA document. This will identify question by question how students performed. The top questions in which students have done well in will be identified, as well as the ones that need to be revised as a priority. This will hopefully inform students' revision at home, but also inform the intervention within the department. Just to reiterate one final piece of advice, attempt every question. All this information can be found in the Assessment Point 1 Pupil Information Booklet. I hope this has been useful. Any questions, please ask your teacher. And finally, good luck.